Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Lieutenant Josh Johnson, and welcome back to another video in the Fall Analysis product series. So now we have a legacy pivot and we have a Deems pivot, and now we're going to put it together for a pretty little dashboard. So down here on the new sheet, little plus icon, just go ahead and click that. It'll input a sheet, and I'm just going to name it dashboard. I'm also going to right click and I'm going to make it, I don't know, let's go pretty purple. And then I'm going to click it, and I'm going to slide it over here to the left. So now I end up with my dashboard, my two analysis tabs, and my red connection tabs. So now that I have a dashboard, I can go in and I can start to create charts. Now, I'm sure you've created an Excel chart or two in the time, but what we want to do now is we're going to create something called a pivot chart, and we're going to start with legacy. So we've already created a pivot table right here with a pivot table, but what we're going to do now is we're going to go over here to pivot chart, and so we're going to create a pivot chart. Now typically when we created the pivot table we just kept it on a new worksheet, but now I already have my worksheet established, so we're going to click on existing worksheet and then just click this little icon right here to make it a small bar and tell it exactly where you want to click it. I'm just going to move it to cell A1 on dashboard, and I'm going to click OK. And so now what we end up with is we end up with our chart 1 field. Again, we're going to go up here to view and just take away, we'll go to view in just a second, sorry. Let's just go ahead and build this pivot chart. Now it's going to work very similar to what we've done on pivot tables. You have your pivot chart fields over here, and it looks very, very similar. So for us, what we want to do is we want to take our post date, and we're going to take that and we're going to drag that on down to the access category now. And we're going to create a post date down there, and notice now we end up with just October and November. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say, alright, well, we do want to make sure that our each_sum is in our filter field. So we're going to go in here to our each_sum and filters. And after we've created our each_sum, what we want to do is we need an amount, right? So let's go back up here, and back down here, and grab amount and bring it right in there to the sum of the amount. Now, we can go in here to value field settings, just like we've always done, create our amount with a space. We can change it to accounting. Click OK. That'll help with our data labels. Now for me, for this type of chart, that's pretty good. We know that we can come down here to our each_sum, and we can take a look at it and say that we need a false setting, just like we did before, and it will come up here and show me that it's already been filtered. Well, let's just right click on any of those buttons that you have, and let's hide all field buttons on the chart. Let's get rid of it. They're gone. No need to worry about it. Also over here, you can come up here to the plus sign for charts. It's very convenient. You can add in axes. It defaults to all of this information all the way down. Well, I don't need a legend. I'm just going to turn it off. I know what I'm looking at. So let's just get rid of that. I also don't need grid lines. And the reason I don't need grid lines is because I'm going to create data labels on it. And so what we end up with is those data labels. I don't like bar charts. Not for this type of comparison, because I'm not really trying to show it. I want to show a trend of change. So if you come up here to your pivot chart tools design tab, you can actually change the chart type. And if you click on that, it's going to give you all of these options that you can do. So if I go into line, I can change my line chart right there to show me all of the data. Now this isn't a running total. You notice that? This is just a effect on each month. But what I want to see in this chart is I want to see what our running current fall in, fall out for the fiscal year metric is. I'll worry about my by month transactional data on the analysis tab. So over here on your pivot table for the pivot chart, right click in the amount and go to value field settings. And right here on the second tab is show values as. Now it says no calculation. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll find running total in. So once you choose running total in, it's going to ask you where you want to do it. Well, we only have one thing, and that's what we're worried about, is post date. So make sure the post date is there. And now click OK. And now if you notice, what happens is it shows us that transactional level data for the total amount of running data as each month comes in. So what we want to do here is we're going to change our total to fall in out legacy running total. And now we're going to continue to play with formatting. There's a few things that you want to know that we've done with our pivot chart field, so we're going to get rid of that. Now over here in any of your charts, you're going to end up with all of these different options for every certain set. So first what we want to do is we want to look at our horizontal category axis, and we're going to not worry about the fill, we're not going to worry about any of those datas, we're not going to worry about our vertical alignment, but this last option here gives us some access options. So vertical line, we're going to change that to at the category number. We're also going to change our access position to on the tick marks so that it expands out our entire field. You can change your tick marks, you can adjust your labels to how you want to see it, you can adjust your number format even if you wanted to, but we're not going to worry about anything else on our horizontal axis. On our vertical axis though, notice that it automatically chose what boundaries it wanted to do. Now you could go ahead and just get rid of this vertical axis because you already have data sets established. Or you could set your auto into an actual value number. And what you could do is go in here and change the minimum amount to 0 and the maximum amount to whatever it is you wanted to see. If you want to see more fluctuation and you know that you started with 17,000, start it with 17,000. And now you're able to see maximum value fluctuations. You can leave it as auto by just clicking on reset and seeing how that data flows across time. And the first time you build it, maybe you just want to see the default, and then you want to start to see how things really kind of trickle across as you go. But for the most part, a majority of time you're looking for spikes in your fall in and fall out. So you could very easily look at your major units of very minor information as you go over. Then we can go in here to our series and our data labels, and you can adjust those if you want. We only need to know the values. We can show it where those data labels go. We want to show that the label position can be center, it can be left, it can be right, it can be above, or below. However you want to do it is more than capable to do. And if you ever really need to do it and you want to clean up your data, understand you can move these individually and the leader lines will show you as they go across. So now what we've ended up with is one pivot chart for our legacy running total. Now we also want to be able to see our legacy by commodity. So what we're going to do is the same thing. Go back into legacy raw, insert a pivot chart. We know where we want to put it. So we're going to go back to our dashboard and we're going to click right here on K because I know I'm going to make it bigger. And we're going to click OK. And now what we end up with is another one that we want to look at. And so here it's going to be very similar to what we're looking at, except now we're going to look at those by commodities. So again, our filter, we're going to want to bring this down to our each sum, but we're going to add one more filter. We're going to add that threshold filter in now too. And now over here on our information down below, we're going to take our each description as our access category, and then we're going to take our amount one more time into our values. So now we're able to have all of that data going across as is necessary. Now you can get this out of the way and you can come in here and start to think, okay, what was that each sum filter again? Oh, that's right, it was false. So because we didn't want anything that equaled 0, so we're going to make that always false. And then the threshold filter, we said, alright, that one though, we wanted to make sure it was true because we only wanted to examine sums of eeks that were over $200. So now we have all of that data into what we're really kind of looking at. So now we're just going to go ahead and close out of our pivot field because we have the data set we want. We're going to go up here, we're going to right click on a button and hide all those field buttons. We're going to get rid of our legend. We're going to get rid of our grid lines. And now we're going to update our header. Legacy fall by commodity. And we're going to start to take a real good look at how that data comes across. Now here's one benefit to a bar chart that a lot of people don't use, is what's called a data table. And when we show the data table down below, now we're able to see the exact amount and the effect of that amount that goes all the way across. And you can change the data table with no legend keys, so it just cleans up that color because all we have is this information. Because as you start to go negative and positive, or positive and negative, what you're going to find is that you have the information all the way across. That creates a unclean base when you have your labels as they're defined below. And notice that the numbers are not in our nice format. We can bring our field list back in, go here to number format and accounting, and OK. And now realize that we haven't really played with a lot here because we don't need running totals. We want to see it individually broken down. Right here we might want to play with our vertical axis a little bit and change out some of our units. 10,000 is nice and it's there, but data sets go all the way across. So we'll take a look at that in 1 second. And so now that we have our accounting data elements there, we go from here. And one thing that I wanted to point out was by removing that threshold and just leaving the eq sum as the filter, what we end up with is a little bit better analysis as we go across. And this is the fun thing about making videos, is you adjust a few things as you go. So now what we want to do is we just want to make them married up and pretty. And we're just going to kind of create this all the way over. And now one thing that's nice is you can go up here to format and see that it's a height of 3 inches and a width of 6.91. Well, that's 3 and 733. I can go right up here and change this to 7.33, hit enter, and now I have two charts that are the exact same size that look identical there. And so now we have our legacy data. The next video I'll show you your DEEMS data and we'll get that taken care of.